person has a mic in hand.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out today to our local independent bookstore and to support these wonderful authors who I'm so glad y'all are here. Thank you for coming out. Today we have the pleasure of hearing from Serena Kaler, Libby Hubsher, Joanna Lowell, Maisie Eddings, Ginny Baird, and Samantha Markham. In this discussion will be moderated by romance writer and influencer Nirmalise Colon. Nirmalise is going to give the actual introduction. I'll just be our general go-to moderator today. So thank you, and I'll send it to you. If anyone needs a book after the talk, which probably is all of you, I don't know, you can get them up front at the table or ask the cashiers, and they'll help you. Thank you.
Hello. If we've done our job, all of you will buy all these books by the end of the evening. I'm going to bum off all of you and make you all introduce yourselves. So we're just going to kind of give a nice brief overview of your latest project and what you have coming out this year. Serena, you have a mic, you can start on there. Oh, sure.
Hi.
Hello, is that working?
Yep. I'm Serena Kaler. I primarily write YA rom-coms, and I'm based here in Durham. And my last book just came out about a month ago. It's called The Calculation of You and Me, and it is it's my sophomore novel, and it's a YA rom-com about a autistic girl going into her senior year of high school who was recently dumped by her boyfriend for not being romantic enough, and then she decides to take a journey learning about love and romance through romance novels, and then along the way learns a lot about herself, about romance, that some people are trash, and overall, good vibes.
And it's a perfect book. I think I can add, it's a perfect book. I'm Samantha Markham. I also write YA contemporary romance. My most recent book also came out about a month ago.
Also perfect.
It's called Love Off the Record. It is about rival journalism students in their first year of college, and they are fighting for the only open reporter spot on their college newspaper. And at the same time, they are, unbeknownst to them, falling in love on an anonymous campus-only dating app. So it's very, you've got mail, except nothing traumatic happens in the end. And I think I'm the only non-local on the panel. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, so I flew all the way here really just to hang out with some really cool authors. I love being here. I'm very excited.
Hey, hello, I'm Joanna Lowell. I'm very excited to be here with all of you and with some of my romance heroes. So, I'm maybe the only historical, potentially, writer. I write Victorian and soon Regency romance, and my Jane Austen vibes, but gayer. My latest book came out last month. It's called A Sure Thing. It's a queer and trans Victorian romance that features a widowed botanist and a painter turned bicycle mechanic, and they end up going on a multi-day bicycle race competition with some blowhard 19th century bicycle bros who have to learn some things about their own masculinity as the painter and the botanist fall in love by the seashore. It's a good time. There's a happily ever after. I'm giving it all away. And the next book is a Regency, which is called A Rare Find, and has an archaeology treasure hunt plot with some Viking gold that may or may not be found. Though love is found.
Sounds very exciting. Hi, I'm Ginny Baird. I live locally, and I have two books. I have other books, but I have a book that's here tonight that I'm signing, Right Girl, Wrong Side, and that is a Romeo and Juliet kind of story set at the beach. Two rival families. One is Latin, and my mom was Puerto Rican, my late mom. So you have the Latin vibes, and you have the culture clash, And the two moms and the families were arch enemies in high school, trying to keep the kids apart, even though they're adults now. But there's a lot of fun and shenanigans going on. The beach house is double booked accidentally. They basically have to draw a line down the middle, your half, my half, and they're trying to keep the kids apart. And that's why it's right girl, wrong side, because trying to tug those adult kids apart. I have another book coming out in October. It's called Christmas Eve Love Story, and that one is a time travel time loop about a woman in New York City. She's a window dresser and she's about to lose her job. All sorts of bad stuff happens to her. Most awful day on record, Christmas Eve day. And then she gets to do it all over again. And each time she does it over again, she has a chance to make it better and see if she can sort of get to the other side of the time loop. In the process, she learns more about herself, the hunky hero, and her neighbors in Brooklyn that she is slowly getting to know more about day by day. And they're wondering how she can know all this stuff about them.
Hi, I'm Maisie Eddings. My book came out 3 months ago, so old news. Old news. My latest release is called Late Bloomer. It's a sapphic rom-com that opens with one of the main characters named Opal. She's stuck in a dead-end job working as an inflatable ice cream cone. And she, which isn't like dehumanizing or demoralizing at all.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. And her life suddenly changes when she wins a scratch-off lottery ticket. And so she's, a people pleaser by design, and there's a lot of people knocking at her door, including toxic friends and her ex, and so she makes the really reasonable choice of buying property off of Facebook Marketplace. I don't know, every time I say this I'm like, okay, I can't believe they let me get away with it. But anyway, so it's this failing flower farm, and she shows up there because she wants to live in cottagecore isolation and pursue her art, whatever. And she gets there, and there's a grumpy flower farmer named Pepper who claims to be the rightful owner of this flower farm. And the duo have to cohabitate as they try to figure out a plan to buy each other out, and then they end up working together. Sorry, I got emotional. No, I'm kidding. They're working together to buy each other out, and then they part ways at the end, as all romances do. Just kidding. All of it. It's a heartbreaking. Oh, love takes root. They plant the seeds of love, all the little puns. There we go. I was to add that. I love it.
Oh, that's tough to follow. I'm Libby Hubsher. I live in Apex, and if it were when did your book come out? How old is your book? My book is an old child that came out last June. It is called Play For Me. It was my third book, and it is. I like to liken it to New Girl. The show takes place at a boarding school. Where a kind of disgraced Red Sox athletic trainer loses her job and her boyfriend and her apartment kind of all in one day, and ends up taking a job at a boarding school so she'll have a place to live. And she ends up living with these 3 faculty members, one of whom is the kind of orchestra director, and he's very broody, and he does not want her in the apartment. And of course, he's like a jerk with a heart of gold. Love him.
Yeah.
He's British. So yes. Anyway, but it's a fun story, fun New England story, I guess. And lots of shenanigans happen, and that's my. Lots of shenanigans. Anyway, if you've seen Maxton Hall, I would like to say that the male lead in Maxton Hall is who I envisioned for the movie. So just keep that in mind. He also lived in Germany, so if that helps you at all.
So we all have to buy
There's
it.
not a movie, but if you'd like to buy a comedy,
We will buy it and then get the movie made.
so we can see that to happen. Anyway, I do have a book coming out next summer, same time as Joanna's, similar time as Joanna's, and this is fun. because mine is also treasure related. So we're gonna plan a big treasure hunt in North Carolina to celebrate. I think we discussed it at our last event. So anyway, mark your calendars next summer. Mine is, okay, sorry, I must watch a lot of TV, but if you've seen it, because this is where all my inspiration comes from, it's embarrassing. So Castle, we've seen the show. Okay, so envision that instead of an author like following around a police detective, he's following around the treasure hunter he randomly met and hooked up with in Iceland. And they're on a treasure hunt after their relationship went sour, and he wrote a book featuring her as a heroine as an apology. So it's kind of like a second chance romance, castle, treasure hunt. Yeah, I haven't cast that movie yet.
all in due time. It's gonna come to you. Okay, well, I don't even know what the point is because they all sound great. But one of my questions that you all kind of are just itching about is all of your main characters are in all of these ridiculous situations. And I would just love to know how we put those people together. How did they come to you? What do we think about when we see them in our heads? And how did we throw them into all of these, as you all say, shenanigans? And you can go first because you're holding
You should have passed this back down.
You should have passed it down.
Too late.
Oh, well, okay. Clearly some of my inspiration comes from television.
A lot of TV living, but
I'm trying to think. I mean, I will say, okay, so some of the shenanigans and like ideas come from situations that I've robbed from my real life. So I like randomly ended up at a New England boarding school, I guess. And like some of the things that happened like had to do with like a waffle bar and like him eating all the waffles, and like the waffle bar was a big deal. So like some things like that.
as they are.
It's a really magical craft.
My answer is not that. Like it's objectively worse. Okay, so I was really inspired by a meme. I you know what? It's probably not even considered a meme, but like at the start of the pandemic, I just remember there was this picture circulating where somebody was in like a Baskin Robbins ice cream cone, and they're like, "Bro, how am I considered an essential worker?" And that stuck with me. Like, that's my Roman Empire. I think that all the time. I'm so curious where that person is. And so that was like the opening idea. And then I am drowning in student debt. And so I was like, wouldn't it be cool if like one day I won the lottery and could maybe own property? And so like, dream big, you know? And then the third portion, I left this out when I was explaining, because I was like, it was too much. But her artist dreams are to paint shoes. And that was because there's this brand of shoes that are hand painted that I can't afford, but I'm really, really into. And so I was like, I'll just live that out with my character, I guess. And I like flowers. So.
Really good inspiration. Oh, well, Right Girl, Wrong Side is where they're sharing the beach house, obviously inspired in part by Romeo and Juliet, the classic story, but with a much happier ending. Also, sort of an older rom-com movie. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It was called Fools Rush In.
Yes.
And it had Salma Hayek and that was a big culture clash movie. So that movie actually was a very big inspiration for this kind of story where you have the two worlds collide, but ultimately learn to appreciate certain things about each other.
A Short Thing is part of a series, and so Kit and Muriel, who are the main characters, were side characters in previous books. And Muriel Pendrake is a world-traveling botanist whose identity is stolen in The Runaway Duchess, and it really just didn't seem fair that her one thing is that her identity is stolen. I was like, she deserves a book, and that was her role. And so, and Kit was the best friend of the artist heroine of The Duke Undone, and with Lucy, that heroine, they formed a sisterhood to celebrate and promote women artists who didn't have the same access to arts education at the time. But I knew that his journey as a trans masculine painter was going to like take him out of that sisterhood, and that was going to be one of the tensions as he like found a new way to make art and a new way to be in community. And so he needed like a different thing to do. And I thought, bicycle mechanic. I thought bicycle mechanic because, and we're gonna have another movie reference here, my favorite movie ever, still maybe not, was Rad. Anybody? Okay, fine. It's a BMX bike movie from the 80s, featuring like scrappy hometown hero, newspaper delivery boy Crew Jones, and then they bring in all these professional bike riders to compete in Hell Track, and then he has to, with like a scrappy team of underdogs, like come up with his own like cycling company to compete in Hell Track and like keep his small town a small town. Anyway, there is a bicycle dance scene at a prom while Send Me an Angel by Real Life plays.
It's so 80s.
It's
like
the most 80s thing. And this, but it's like, don't actually like, I don't watch Rad. It's not that good. But you can go to YouTube and you can watch this dance scene, Send Me an Angel playing, and then this like the romantic, the only person who went on to have any kind of career, Lori Loughlin is the like female. So yeah, so that's what it is. And so she's writing anyway. So like that idea of like a bicycle romance, like I was always like, someday I'll write a bicycle romance. And I write Victorian romance primarily, and there's like a lot of horses. I don't know anything about horses, but like I know a lot about bicycles. So I was like, finally, bicycles. And there is not a bicycle dance scene in the book. It's actually, this is a craft issue. It's really hard to make that interesting in a book. It's a lot of technical writing, like a fight scene, but more boring. And
I have a clarifying question. The bicycle dancing, like they're on a bike dancing?
Yeah, so it's so they're BMX trick riders, and so I mean it's a lot of them. It's not like
so they're tricking
waltz
at each
or
other.
they're right. It's more like they're dancing side by side. It's not like like he's spinning,
like he's wheeling,
she's standing on the seat.
She does like an Arabesque.
Oh, I thought
She
you
does
like
an
a
Arabesque.
group of bikes.
No, it's
So
just
like
the
the
two
whole
of them.
vision has changed.
Yeah.
I've been trying to visualize this the whole time. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know.
We weren't thinking the same thing in our brains.
I recommend watching that.
Joanna, release the deleted scene. It sounds like you didn't write it.
It sounds like you tried to write it.
Yeah,
And you said this is not what I needed to be.
It's also, I mean, I wanted it to be big, and there's penny farthings, you know, with the big wheel. It's just
Logistically, it was hard.
logistically, it's just like people are flying off, and
They
there's a lot
could
of
do an
discussion.
Arabesque.
That's
It's like
hard.
a
Deleted scenes will come, but like watch Rad, Send Me an Angel dance scene. That's something to do
It's
today.
everyone's homework.
Thank you so much for making that the story that I now have to follow. Very tame, just two teens working for a newspaper and being really intense about it. I guess I chose newspaper. Well, okay, I do know this. So the love interest in this book, and Love Off the Record, is named 3. He's actually a character. He was actually the antagonist of my first book, which is This Man Badly, which is a boarding school prank war YA romance. And he was the original love interest, so I was like, I gotta give this guy his day in the sun, even though he's kind of a jerk. Like, he kind of sucks. And I was like, you know where he'd suck so great is on a newspaper, being really intense, because he was editor-in-chief in high school. So I was like, he definitely is going to carry that with him and have a big ego trip. And so then I was like, you know, it'd be so fun, someone who hates his guts. What else is new? And then I guess along the way, I realized that when you're writing people who hate each other so much in person, it's really hard to make them fall in love. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have an anonymous dating app so they don't know that they're talking to each other, and then have them start to fall in love there. And that will be, I guess that's considered a spoiler. It's not, because it's a romance. However, I did have a friend who read it, and then she came to one of my events, and I said that he is the guy, and she was like, I could see her in the crowd. She was like, and And that's not a spoiler. Right out of our, no one else here is shocked. It's just yeah, it is a romance that ends happily. And yeah, I guess that's the explanation. Sorry, there's no bike dance. No dance scenes at all, actually. But I do think we should all go home and watch Rad. In full.
I will definitely do.
Just stop now and watch it. Yeah. In fact, here comes the projector. Yeah. And Serena gets to go last.
Yeah, Sam and Maisie are staying with me tonight, and now I know what our plans are. So great. So this is amazing. So for calculation of you and me, I was just sitting trying to think of ideas for my next book, and I knew that I wanted to do some sort of grumpy sunshine dynamic, because that's one of my favorite dynamics ever. Just like a super hopeful, like positive person in the face of somebody who's just not into, I don't know, good vibes. So happiness,
Smiles.
yeah.
Daylight.
And then I was trying to like think of sort of like what to wrap the story around, and I did mine some of the premise from my own life, where I was like 15, and I started dating this boy, and after like 2 weeks he's like, I love you, and I was like, really? It didn't happen that fast. Okay. And then all my friends are like, oh my gosh, you guys are in love, and I'm like, are we? And then I was like, I mean, okay, I guess so. And then around that same time, me and two of my best friends somehow got a hold of a Nora Roberts book that she stole from, one of my friends stole from her mom's library, and we were like passing it around like drugs, and we were like, do you have the next one in the series? And we were learning about relationships and love, honestly, through Nora Roberts. And that woman has taught me so much about all of that. And sort of like around the end of me finishing that series, I was like, you're absolutely not in love, me. I had to tell him that. And honestly, I was like, well, what if I had a girl who was sort of in the same situation where I'm like, do I recognize what love is? Do I know what that means? And then, like, you know, things and interactions with like other humans are a little difficult when you're neurodivergent. So having a character like that, using making a syllabus of romance novels and trying to see what she can figure out from all of that just seems like a lot of fun, and honestly very helpful, and something similar that I did. So I was like, let's do that, and then calculation was born from that.
Just laughing, thinking about 15-year-old Serena.
Well, oh my God, okay.
Do you have it?
It was like very. I had to follow this one friend, and I was like, I need you to read a little faster. Prioritize this because I really need to get to the next book. But the most embarrassing thing about all of this is that guy. His name is Nick, and my first, the love interest in my first book, his name was Nick Hill. And he went by Nick, and I met some friends from high school, and they're like, I can't believe you wrote like that first book about Nick. And I was like, what? And I did not put that together. And I saw, because I'm Facebook friends with this guy who like has like a life in like Texas, like we don't talk anymore, but I see a picture on his Facebook with my book in the background. I was like, does this man think I wrote a book about him? I'm gonna have to hurt his feelings again. It's gonna be so terrible.
You're messing with me on Facebook. I don't even think about it.
Like, this may come out of nowhere, but that book is not about you.
I just named the guy named Nick. I didn't think
about
you.
I think about you so little. I didn't even put it together.
I did not make that connection.
Protest too much.
Poor
It's
Nick.
not good work.
No, sorry, this was like.
Wait. I'm just thinking about Nick now. So we're obviously here about romance. Romance is the vehicle by which you're telling all of your stories. Why romance? Because some of the things we're saying could have been in another genre. You know, we could have been doing magical realism. We could have been sprinkling in some speculative. But a lot of you are kind of seeping in some regards, some of you are seeping in like heavier themes in the vehicle of romance. So do you want to think about how we're balancing the idea of plot and romance, and why romance to tell your story? And that doesn't have to start with Serena, by the way. The mic can move. But I want it to if it has to, but we're always stressing about the moving.
Yeah. I can start. Why romance? I mean, I read widely. I love fantasy. I love a lot of sci-fi as well. I love historical books in general, but I keep circling back to romance because and maybe I'm thinking of like 15-year-old Serena again, who like, life is hard when you're a teenager. Life is hard now. And sometimes I just want to, Lacey just starts. And sometimes you just want something where you know it's not going to absolutely like, I mean, sometimes it devastates you a little bit, but it always ends in a good place. And sometimes my brain just cannot take like a lot of terrible surprises and twists and, you know, things ending with like someone being murdered or people not getting together. Sometimes I just want like the cozy satisfaction of knowing something good is going to happen at the end of the book. And so I always circle back to romance for that because it never disappoints me. There are rules. I know that it's going to give me that.
That was a long way of saying it in anxiety disorder.
I mean, for the hope of it all.
And I'm sure that it's going to be a lot of the same feeling for most of us. Yeah. I will say, I think for me, especially YA romance in general is obviously amazing, but YA romance is what got me into like the idea of being a writer. Like I've been writing fan fiction for a long time before I read anything YA. And that was always fraught and tragic. Middle school was tough. I was really working out the issues in fanfic. I mean, thank God for her. But I would say YA romance was like the first book that I read. It was actually Sarah Dessen, who like I'm sure you've all heard of. This is her bookstore. She owns it. No, I'm just kidding. But that was like the first book I read in high school. Like I read The Truth About Forever, and I was like, oh my God! It like changed my brain chemistry. I was like, this is what I want to write. Like I want to write these kinds of books that like make you like they just feel good to read, and that's like really what I wanted. But at the same time, for YA specifically, I felt like I was learning so much. Like as a teen, I felt very seen. And I think that that's what's really important about YA is to make teens feel seen as much as like as teens we're reading stuff like Nora Roberts. I feel like every once in a while an actual teen will pick up a YA book and be like, oh my God, they're just like me. And they're also, I think I like that you know what's gonna happen. Although I love a murder mystery. And I feel like my third book, this book, Love Off the Record, if it wasn't a romance, probably would be some kind of murder mystery because I do think that there's high potential for 3 to be murdered by Wynn. I will, you know what, I'm not going to go too far. Not down the rabbit hole.
I also read a lot of romance as a very young person. In my dad's pizza shop, there's a library down the road. I would buy paperbacks for a nickel and eat pepperoni and read them, and it was also spicy. But I went to college and studied English literature, and then I went to an MFA program, and I went to a PhD program, and I teach in an English department down the road at Wake Forest University. And along that journey, I was taught that romance is not serious, it's not literature, it's not something that you should admit to reading. It's not something you want somebody to see you with on a plane. And I really internalized all of that. And I also read widely. I write experimental fiction and literary fiction. And it was during my PhD comprehensive exams when I was like, I'm like writing about Beckett. And I started reading Nora Roberts. And I was like, this is amazing. I remember Nora Roberts. And then, various other, writers, Meredith Rand, K.J. Charles, Beverly Jenkins, and just thinking about how much academia and sort of like mainstream prestige literary fiction tastemakers were getting wrong about romance, because it's a really diverse genre in terms of style, and there is a constrained form, but when you have a constrained form, there's a happy ending, there are recognizable plot beats, writers are using tropes to build their narratives. You have opportunities for virtuosic performances varying what's expected. And so that sort of play of novelty and variation, there are so many technically like beautiful things happening at the formal and stylistic level in romance. And so it was partially out of this like outrage where I was like, I've been robbed reading things I like for all these years because I thought it wasn't like serious literature. And so I started writing romance again. And I also really love the happy ending for what it promises readers in terms of care. And it's a genre that I think doesn't get a lot of, sort of recognition, in the, prizes, reviewers, serious literature world, because it centers emotionality, because it has optimism kind of built into it, and we have a more sort of like cynical, ironic, postmodern bent, which is not to say that there aren't sort of metafictional nods and irony in romance novels, but it doesn't do things that are in step with like all of that sort of critical vocabulary. And so I think critics are actually failing romance, because romance has so much to offer, and that idea of originality, which was sort of been promulgated, like we're supposed to be anxious about being influenced by other writers, but I think that romance really actually celebrates community and celebrates influence, and the fact that writers, many of whom, not all of whom, but many of whom are women, many of the readers are women. This is all part of why romance doesn't get the credit it deserves critically. There's like, and Ursula Le Guin said this about genre fiction, there's an ecstasy of influence where we're not all trying to be these solitary geniuses writing sentences that no one's ever heard put together before in the English language. It's like, it's a community sort of genre where I think people are picking up the same sorts of things and like elevating each other's voices. And so I think romance, for me is like a sort of a, it gives me a lot of pleasure as a reader, but I also always feel like I need to like yell about how it's actually really good and really like, and I'm teaching a class now at Wake Forest on romance, which is really exciting for me because now I have students that are like, we can read this in school. And a literary critic said once, is Roland Barthes, he said, literature is what is taught, period. And that's part of it. People don't teach romance, so we don't take it seriously. We don't think it's literature. But if we teach it, I don't know, maybe that will start to change. So that's my soapbox on it.
I love that. Romance is a community. That's one thing that, one thing that I love about it is you have a community of readers and writers, and it's a very embracing community despite the genre is so big and there's so many different subgenres. And what I love is that there's so much respect for that people have for each other, different kinds of, there's something for everything, which is amazing, for everyone, something for everyone. And sort of how I came to it, if we can go back to the movies, I was a TV gal growing up, not a big reader. I was a little bit dyslexic, so I had trouble reading for a while, but was really of the TV generation and heavily influenced by film. My first job ever was working in the movie theaters. In college, I worked at the Varsity Theater up here on Franklin Street. So I really spent a lot of time with film, and I found through that I loved the romantic comedies. I loved the stories that made me feel happy when I left the theater. There's so many good films and different things you can learn from them, but one of the best things to learn is that it's okay to be in a relationship that makes you feel good, and it's okay to want that, to work for that. It's not always easy, and it's okay to laugh while you're getting there. And that's something I really love about rom-coms, and that's what I write.
I feel like I'm about to. Would you like a different question? No, I just like. I feel like I need to
sign up for Joanna.
I know. I was like, am I about to like re-enroll in college? I'm literally about to re-enroll. Yeah, I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm adding that to my to-do list tonight. After we watch Rad, we're gonna fly to Wake Forest. Yeah, we're gonna fly to Wake Forest. Let's see. Why romance? Well, okay, so I started writing romance when I had a wee bit of a mental breakdown. I was in dental school. Tell how it is. I was in dental school, and I was really going through it. I was super anxious. I was so like stressed, so chronically stressed to the point where I was like just not coping well, and I wasn't sleeping. And the only thing that like was kind of getting me through it was I was just reading romance books, like close to a book a night, because I'm like, you can do a lot when you have 8 hours and you're trying to avoid your thoughts. And so I had always been a huge fan of romance. My pipeline of reading things way too young at an impressionable age. One, I saw Moulin Rouge way too young. I think it was like 7 or 8. So that was kind of eye-opening. I was like, wow. And then I, as one does, went through a big Anne Boleyn phase around age 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. And then Philippa Gregory, and I was like, oh my God, the romance of King Henry VIII. And I'm like, that frontal lobe development, like, really has done a lot of wonders for my perception on relationships. But yeah, so that was kind of my and then I found historical romance, and that was my pipeline. But always reading these stories where it's like, it's so incredible to see people falling in love in different ways, because we kind of have just like this basic concept of what love is, but like the uniqueness of recreating that sensation in a unique way for every story and like every romance book that's out there is just very mind-boggling to me. And so yeah, I was like, I inspiration struck, and I was like, well, I can't read anything but romance right now, so I'm certainly not going to be able to write anything but romance right now. And that, kind of that safety net of the structure and knowing there was going to be a happy ending allowed me to, I think, feel safe having my characters explore grief or anxiety or, all of these different things. Because I also knew at the end that they were going to be okay. And so I was like, go be messy, go do it, let it all out. So, yeah.
Okay, you guys have left me with nothing to
So
say.
sorry.
I'm actually a total downer. Okay, my first book, I don't think was a romance originally. If anybody's read Meet Me in Paradise, I get a lot of flack for that cover and the way my publisher kind of let people call it a rom-com before it came out, because it's not. There are funny moments, but it is not a rom-com at all. And I didn't write it that way. But I agree, Maisie. I think the one thing that is so beautiful about romance is that you do have this safety net of the framework of, there's a happy ending. So you can take your characters through some really difficult things and painful things and sad things, knowing that they could flip to the back of the book and read the last chapter and be like, I'm okay, I can, woo! Yeah. And then go back, if they need to. So I think I love the power of that, because, I'm a very anxious person, and I wrote a book about a very anxious person, and I was dealing with a lot of sad things at the time. And the more I kind of, when I sold it, it didn't actually have, there was a relationship in it, and it was a love story, but it was more a love story between sisters than it was a love story between a lady on an island and the guy who owns the hotel there. But as I kind of built more of that relationship in after I sold it, and they kind of wanted it to be more of a romance, I think I actually liked that, because I think it added something in. It added this support, and it added this element of feeling good in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of hard things. And I think people need that, because we all face so many really difficult things. It's never oh, I'm in love and it's wonderful, nothing bad happens to you, or so I think I like that, and I think that's why people like to read it. Even if they love rom-coms, it's it can be an escape, but it can also be not an escape. It can be I'm going to face something that resonates with me, that's challenging for me, but I'm going to do it in a way that I'm comfortable with, or that feels safe, I can handle it, and there's a safety net there of happiness and joy at the end.
I think it's it feels very cathartic to go to a book that will end well,
Yeah.
but is dealing with things that resonate in your life.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well,
We're gonna play Joanne because we need to get light. Okay, we're gonna play a game.
Are there toys in it? Oh.
They're toys.
I just
Yeah, with props or something. Oh no.
It's not that kind of romance panel. We know where Maisie's brain is. Now we're gonna play a game. Would you rather? It's just a jar. Maisie.
I know there was props.
Next time. Okay. But no, we'll bounce around so that we can just keep it light. So but I'll make you popcorn each other, and I'll fold the question. Okay. All is well. Are you gonna start? You want popcorn?
Oh, I get to pick.
You get to
person?
pick a person.
Oh, okay. I think I'm gonna pick Maisie.
That's a far jump.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what Maisie has to answer. Would you rather write a love scene? This is actually a great question for you. Or a breakup scene?
Oh my god, loves. Anytime I have writer's block, I just jump to the banging. I'm like, I didn't realize that a lot of romance writers avoid put those off or like have to drink wine to do. I'm like, maybe I am a pervert. I don't know, because I'm like, when in doubt, bang it out, and so I would so much rather write that. And never a breakup if I could, because that's sad and I don't like that. So yeah, easy. Janelle, you go next.
To learn a little bit about Maisie's process. Okay. What was it? Okay, great. Would you rather write a scene where the couple dances? Should have been for sure. It says in the rain, but it could have been with bikes. Or kisses under fireworks.
Oh. Wait, whether they're on bikes or
in another dimension, that would have been for Joanna. But no, it's a couple dances in the rain or kisses under fireworks.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, dancing in the rain and kissing in the rain, probably, because I've done that one, and that's a good one. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Lisa's been there.
I know how that's gonna work out.
In case it's another one.
You're hopeful.
Wrote the bike one.
I'm wishing for one. No. There was one
See, you
about
share too much, and now the questions are being tailored to you.
Now I want to know.
Now we all know your secret.
No, this is we could stay here all night. But would you rather have your book's soundtrack composed by a famous musician of your choosing, or its cover designed by a renowned artist, also of your choosing, dead or alive?
Whoa. I mean, I really probably should say artists because my books are, they feature artists. But if Kate Bush designed did a soundscape that would be really amazing. I would, so sorry, art world.
We have to go with where your heart is.
The heart wants what it wants.
Me? Okay.
We're doing great.
Okay.
I know.
Okay, here we go. Would you rather your book be featured on the cover of a major magazine of your choosing, or become a trending topic on social media?
Well, I think that's easy. It's obviously, I think, social media. Because I don't know that magazines really have the same reach that they did in the time of 13 going on 30.
The trending topic isn't positive, Sam.
We don't know.
Yeah,
She's just gonna let the social media wave take it.
You know what? Isn't
Right,
all
living on a prayer?
bad publicity is good publicity? Bad publicity is good publicity, isn't that what they say? Hey, if you want to hate buy my book, feel free. Please do. And then tell your friends how much you hate it and they should read it too.
I feel like we talked about a podcast.
So yeah, talk about
Sam is built different.
Yes, I am. It's called being unwell.
Our flavor of that is different.
It's a little too specific for your story, but we'll go with it. Would you rather write a romance where the characters meet in a library or at a bookstore? How would it be different? That's the question I'm asking you.
Okay, well, The bookstore in my book, which is a romance-only bookstore, it's called Three Little Words. It has a cafe and a cat, so I'm gonna go with that because I like a little drink when I browse, and
It's a better meet
a
cute
little
situation.
treat. I like to meet cats in the wild, so
And are cats allowed in the library?
We don't know
yeah,
if cats are allowed in the
probably
library.
not.
Drinking.
So we have a
library.
Well,
Are they allowed in the library?
no.
We have a librarian in the audience, and she says no. So.
Sorry to the library.
Who are you gonna popcorn it to? Because we got
Libby.
Shock. Okay, Libby.
So surprised.
No. I wrote them all. I feel good about all of them. Maybe. Would you rather have your book translated into every language, so far-reaching, okay, or have it turned into an audiobook narrated by a celebrity, also far-reaching? And who would it be? Because you should answer this because you have a lot of visions.
This is a dilemma of every Okay. Look, I'm gonna say I want it translated into every language. Because I really I love languages. I'm fascinated by them. But also it would mean that it's sold in every place in the entire universe. So that would be what I would pick, but man, the celebrity is so tempting. It's so tempting.
I would get you
Would they
too.
translate his narration? I don't know. I made the question, but I don't have the rules.
Yeah, that's a. To have that dilemma would be
I wish it for you.
I have a new goal.
It's going on the vision board.
You can take the paper so that you can put it on your mission. I'll find it before we leave. We're at the point where I'm going to turn it over to you guys, or I'm going to keep this thing going. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a short question and a long question. Short question is, what was the Nora Roberts book?
So the Ardmore trilogy, when that woman Jude moves to Ireland into her dead relative's cottage and falls in love with the local bar owner, and she's writing a children's book. It was so magical. There's fairies. I was like, get it, Nora.
What can't she do?
Yeah, what can't she do? I think it's the Ardmore trilogy. It was the Tears of the Moon, Jewels of the Sun, some part of the sea. There you go. Those three.
I'd love to know how many people in what age Nora Roberts was part of their awakening.
I went to road trip to her bookstore that she owns in Maryland and just see if I could be you changed my life.
Just wanted you to know.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
gonna
drive back
stay in
now.
this bed and breakfast until you show up.
I respect that. Long question.
Yes, long question, so it's for everyone. We've obviously already talked about why romance is so important, and so, it's a great genre, even though it's so overlooked. But at the same time, do you all have any advice on how to, I feel like for any genre, honestly, it's so hard to just be creative, because I feel like at this point, it feels like everything has already been done, even though that's probably not true. I feel like, original ideas can come at any moment, but at the same time, how do you fight that feeling that at least I get sometimes of how can I be creative? Obviously tropes and things like that are very popular right now. We talk about them all the time, but it's, how can I make sure that I can write an enemies to lovers or friends to lovers or whatever it is and not make it feel like I've read this before type thing.
Anyone?
You got the mic, baby.
I don't know.
Okay. I was just going to say, one thing that really helps make stories original in my mind are the characters, because the characters are individual. They're people, right? They're their own people in their own way. And each character has a different way of processing things and thinking about things, their own sense of humor, their own anxieties. And so you can put the same schematic, the whole story frame around different characters, and you're going to come out with totally different stories because of how they react off each other, and one is the catalyst for this or that. So I think really a lot of what makes the stories unique, even within the same tropes, are the characters that bring them to life.
I think too, books are interesting because it's like a very, it's something that we see when you commercialize like creativity, and then kind of create like, it's art that is produced on a very rapid scale. You look at something like music where an artist releases an album like every couple of years, or you have like you can spend years working on a painting or things like that, but like books are consumed at a very rapid rate that other art isn't. And so I think we get really hung up on this idea of like, what can I do to stand out and like sell and make this so different and things like that. And so the second that you like kind of chain your creativity to this concept of like, how can I monetize it in a way that's, make a profit. And we all want to make money. Like that's what, we need it to get by. But I think it like holds you from being able to take risks, actually, because you're getting in your own way. Like, is this original enough? Is this different enough? Where I think the best work is created from just an excitement to tell the story, no matter what it is. So yeah, I would just say like kind of unburden yourself from having to be the most creative or the most unique, because we really can't do that. Like there's no original thought. And so if you just have fun with it, then everything else is gravy. I would say.
Yeah. I think what makes it unique is you.
Yeah.
Like every writer has their own specific voice. So even if like they have the same exact concept. I don't know if anybody's ever read Big Magic, but Liz Gilbert was talking like they were writing the same flipping book. Like they had the exact same idea. And I'm sure it would have been, if they had both seen that idea all the way through, they would have written two totally different books just based on their voice. So I think it's really being like, I have an idea of how, like what my voice is. And that's enough to take, even if like Maisie and I were like, we're both gonna write someone ice cream cone, like it would be totally different, I think, just because Maisie has a brilliant, hilarious, like incredible voice, and mine's very different. So I think
also brilliant and incredible.
That
was a weird way to insult yourself.
It's supposed to be a roast of yourself.
But I think that's the biggest thing that you can bring into it, is that confidence of like, and it's easier to write, I think, when you let go of trying to say something and do something to what you're saying. Like just let yourself do the thing, and I think you'll find it's very unique.
Okay, can I ask 2 questions?
You can ask 5.
Okay, so one question is, what is your favorite romance trope? And another is, who is another romance author that you are currently enjoying?
You all here. Pass that one down.
I can answer this.
Okay.
Lisa Kleypas.
Maisie.
Sorry, I had the mic. I just bow at her feet. Like if she punched me in the face, I would thank her. So that one. And then only one bed is just forever the perfect trope.
I'm still thinking.
Well, I'll say a book while I think about favorite trope, but Katie Hoffman's The Prospects.
Oh yeah.
It's here. It's great. It's the first. It's a book about the first openly transmasculine professional baseball player finding love with his college teammate, and it's so sweet and so just like bursting with heart. And like, if you don't like baseball, like you'll like baseball at the end of it. It's like really just like the most heartwarming book ever. I just like read it and then read it again, and it just made me so happy.
Okay, thank you for prompting my brain, because I was like, oh, baseball book, I just read a baseball book. I actually just read that baseball book, and I read it back to back. I read The Prospects, and then I read The Art of Catching Feelings by Alicia Thompson. And Alicia Thompson is what does Chapel Roan say? I'm your favorite artist, which I know is I'm your favorite drag queen's favorite drag queen. Now we have Alicia Thompson is your favorite author's favorite author. She is the author I wish that I could be. She is so amazing, so thoughtful. I think that Cold World, which is her second book, like with Love from Cold World. With Love from Cold World. She changed the title. I always get it. I always get it flipped around. It's one of the best books I've ever read. She just like talk about tropes that like you've seen 100 times that you just feel like you've never seen before. I think she does them so well, and I think that has reminded me as I was like thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, I love a workplace romance, which I mean, it's the forced proximity, and also like there's like a rivalry. It kind of gives you everything you want. It's like an only one bed, but it's like we're in only one office and we can't get away from each other. And I love that so much. It's like, yeah, that's like a drug. Are you ready? Okay.
I'm ready. For tropes, I would probably have to say marriage of convenience. When I see a historical romance with a marriage of convenience and they're like, we're not going to fall in love, this is just because, you know, somebody needs to meet some sort of ridiculous parameter. I got to move out of my mom's house. Like, I'm like,
Just need
we'll see. Yeah.
We need an heir.
And I just started reading The X-Files by Jessica.
Oh my god.
It makes me want to die. Like, her work is so good. I'm just always like,
Oh,
why am I doing this? I'm just gonna read. I just want her to like read me her thoughts for the rest of my life. Yeah.
I'll say my trope because now my brain is working more.
Yeah.
Okay, fake dating. Because that makes me think of other like Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, which another delight. Or Take a Hint, Danny Brown. Just like fake dating just delivers and delivers. So. You know, and it's just like in life when we're always fake dating. So it's like I've also been there. So
relatable.
It's judging myself.
You're like, when we were dancing on those bikes.
we're like, now we have to make everyone think we're in a relationship because why?
Okay, so this is completely genuine, but the book I read and enjoyed the most recently was actually written by Joanna. So I have to say, like, please buy it because it's just like I can't even put my love into words. But also I really do love Alicia Thompson too. So I second that vote. I'm trying to think. I love all the tropes, but I am really like an enemies to lovers. Myself. I don't feel like I do it well, even though I wrote one. But I feel like I enjoy when other people do it because there's just something magical about like we hate each other so much, but I want to make out with you at the same time.
I love how like there's always the balance too, because Sam was like, I took it too far.
Someone's gonna die.
Yeah.
Take a big crime committed here.
Yeah, because I also had like my editor and my editor's assistant were like, I think you've taken the enemies too far, and
There's no way for them to
we
come
don't
back.
like him anymore.
Yeah. It's a hard balance to
Like,
strike.
Yeah, but he's a jerk with an accent. Okay.
We have a lot of things for an accent. Yeah, maybe accent's my favorite trope.
Yeah. Or also, I really do love star-crossed lovers.
Ooh.
Yeah, like we can't be together, but
That's
somehow
terrible.
we'll make it work.
There's like some old romance, but it was 1,000 Worlds Apart or something like that. I'll figure it out. But they are star-crossed lovers, but across dimensions, and they're just constantly finding each other in all the. No, it's
like
not.
Claudia Gray.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Appreciate you, girl. Yes.
But also a top tier book.
No, it's a series, and it's phenomenal because it's like rooted in like science fiction, but it's romance and it's across dimensions, and like you follow her into like Victoria, you follow her over into like the future, you follow her back into the past, her parents, it's all, but they're all constantly finding each other, and it's just. You're just there the whole time. We'll see you in the next. We'll see you in the next world. It's okay.
I have so much anxiety from hearing
Yeah.
that.
I promise you, it's really good.
Put them in the same room.
Should be a show. Thank you.
I'm sorry, it took me a minute. I have deadline brain. I have a book due on Wednesday, so I'm like, yeah, deadline brain, which means it takes me twice as long to process. I'm sitting here. Oh, yeah, It's All Relative by Rachel McGee was the last one I read, and it's really cute. She writes very heartwarming stories, and what I liked about that story is it involved the sisters' relationship and the stepsisters. It's sort of not just the romance, but getting into the family dynamics, a blended family, you know, and a lot of good stuff going on there. Rachel McGee. So that was good, and I do like Enemies to Lovers. I like The One Bed. I like The One House. I like the one car, The One sleigh,
One shower. One anything.
What's he doing that one? What's the one hammock?
I guess there could be a one bike.
That would be so funny.
Oh
if
my
you
god!
had-
But that
oh my god, there's only one bike. That would be so funny.
Yeah.
Freestanding extra chapter.
They put the pegs on the back. It's fine. Not with
I
the
did a lot of peg riding, BMX. Yeah.
I watched Disney Channel.
You fit 3 on one bike.
You fit 3, yeah.
Yeah.
It writes itself. It writes itself. Was that everybody?
Did I do it?
We hit time. Okay, thank you all so much for doing this. This was so fun. I love every second of it. Let's give them all a round of applause.